people. We're excited for another Road to Soul Joy
And
Wellness.
we always have really great topics to discuss, Joy. And today, I have just really been so fascinated, interested with the discussion around the Great Resignation. This time when people are talking about financially struggling because of the pandemic and COVID, and now people are quitting their jobs.
Welcome to the Road to Soul Joy Wellness, where a coach and a therapist explore the journey to living your best life on purpose. Here are Joy Williams and Nadine Husner, your host.
Hello, good people. We're excited for another Road to Soul Joy Wellness.
New day, new start. And we always have really great topics to discuss, Joy. And today, I have just really been so fascinated, interested with the discussion around the Great Resignation and all of the media coverage and articles that are out there. And I believe the recent statistics that I am aware of is that roughly 47 million people quit their jobs last year. And this is uncharted territory. This was an article that I read on CNBC, and I was just like, wow, 47 million people in this time when people are talking about financially struggling because of the pandemic and COVID, and now people are quitting their jobs.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's incredible to call it this wave. People are leaving for a variety of reasons, and some people are completely quitting the job force. Some people are finding new jobs, and some people are starting their own things. So it's a really interesting time. It's
Mhm.
a it And who would have guessed that this would have happened?
And I think part of it, what the pandemic kind of forced all of us to do is just to rethink our lives, rethink who we are and what we want to do. The working from home and now people being forced to go back into the office. I mean, there's so many reasons why people are deciding to take different paths and do different things.
Here's a word of the day: Philippians 4:8 and 9. This is my favorite Bible verse, but I haven't really memorized it yet, so I should. So it is, I'm reading the NIV version. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And then verse 9, whatever you have learned or received or heard from me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. That's Paul speaking to the church. So the thing is, mindset's important, and you have to get moving and do some action. So remember
Mhm.
that.
No, absolutely, Joy. That is so key. I think so many times, or often people focus on just, oh, if I think it will be like magic, right? But action is key to everything. That when you think it, you want to manifest, and to manifest means to put things into action.
Perfect.
My quote for the day is, if you cannot do great things, do small things in a great way, by Napoleon Hill. I think it's so important that we get focused on doing these huge things. Like we look at other people and like, oh my God, what they're doing is great. It's so wonderful. It's huge. But I think everything we do is noteworthy and worthy of acknowledgement and recognition. And it's only the way we think about things is what puts the scope on it. But everything that you do can be great.
I agree. That sounds like when we look at other people, we think of their whole finished product, and they got there one step at a time. So if we do one excellent step after the next, when we look back at it, it will be a large, great life of things that we've done.
Absolutely. And that's what we're living for. We're living for our greatness.
Yeah, I can imagine if you used to have a really long commute, and you found yourself at home, you didn't have to be as prepared, depending on the number of Zoom meetings, because you have to be prepared from the waist up, right? You didn't have to be able to prepare, it didn't have to take you as long to do that. You had more quality time at home, more time to spend with your family, that going back to the office um, might not be something you want to do.
Yeah, yeah. Just rethinking it. I mean, and of course, if you have a job where you can get your work done remotely, of course, if you're in the service industry, you have to go in. But um, we have to rethink, or we have been rethinking, well, do I really need to be in an office space? Because you think about, as a therapist, I'm constantly encouraging people to do self-care. Self-care is so key, so important. But what do you often hear? What are one of the top three reasons why people don't do self-care is time. So when you're working remotely, you've cut out your 1 hour of prep time and eating breakfast to get out, right? Then you're, depending on where you live, an hour to 2 hours of commute. So that's 3 hours in the morning that you are used that is used up just to kind of get you to a place where you sit, you go there, and then of course you need some time to complain with your coworkers. So, that's time that's sort of wasted. And then then you get your work done, and then you do your commute, and then you have to unwind and whatever you do at the end of the day. So you are estimating about a good 6 hours just related to you going and coming back home from work. Where when I work remotely from home, I get everything ready from the top up. But today I'm ready all the way down. But you get yourself ready and it doesn't require as much time. And then you're in a space where you feel comfortable. You feel more productive. So I think people are just, not only do businesses need to rethink, people are rethinking. Do I really need to do this? Do I want to do this? As we move into this trend of self-care.
I think, yeah, those are some really good points. I think the other thing to know, because we're in this pandemic and so many people have lost their lives, the idea that you have forever, people have to really adjust. Like we don't really have forever. We need to make decisions because we need to enjoy life now, right? So, and we need to maximize what we're trying to do with our lives. So I think that's helping some people make a decision that this is not what they want to do. It's always, doing something for the next thing, but enjoying the journey and making sure that you're doing the best. I think some people are quitting because in some areas that because of the pandemic, they're working so much, like healthcare workers, I think, which is one of the highest groups that are resignations, that
Mhm.
dealing with COVID and being in that situation is too much for some people. So they want a different environment, and they are the most overworked people, and money isn't everything. So some
No.
people are leaving because, and knowing that they're not necessarily going to make as much money.
And even like healthcare. Healthcare is completely revamped as far as how do we do business. As a therapist, telehealth is skyrocketed. It's everywhere, every place. Now, there are a lot of people who want to come in and do face to face, but it's just amazing how, with mental health, how that whole landscape has changed. And recently, I read an article, and because my brain does not always retain information the way it should, there are a lot of hospital systems. There's a hospital system, I believe I'm thinking further on the West Coast, that's rethinking, or they've done a study that shows that they've gotten better healthcare outcomes when people were allowed to recuperate at home instead of in a hospital ward. So you think how that saves costs for insurance companies. I'm sure they're going to be pushing that. And even for, patients are going to be like, can I just, recuperate at home? I'm with family, I'm with friends, I'm in an environment where I feel comfortable, and and studies have shown that there are better healthcare outcomes to that regard. So
I can believe that. I mean, I think people, when you're in a hospital, you are susceptible to other diseases, right? So people
absolutely.
get other things because they're in the hospital environment. So that definitely
Hmm.
that makes sense. It's interesting though, because the thing is, will some of the things that have happened during the pandemic stay? I know my health insurance company, which I will not name, I had telehealth during the last couple of years. This year, they put telehealth in the next plan. They're like, buy the next plan, you can have telehealth. I'm like, if I need to pay $100 and something more a month, I'll go to the doctor. I'm like,
Hmm.
so I think
Yeah.
some of those things, and because telehealth before wasn't as reimbursed, So the question is it still going to be reimbursed as much? Are people going to really recognize that this is a benefit that should stay? And I think that's the same thing as, are employers going to recognize that your employees were productive, some even more so, when they were working from home? And so forcing them back into the office will have detrimental effects, probably increase the resignation rate, and decrease their mental health, like you say, spending all that time and doing things. So will they be forced to go back to the office 100%? There is some benefit to being in the office space with other people, but can you compensate for that benefit in other ways? And how will employees respond if they are forced to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. But there's that hybrid model, right? Where you may have certain teams that will go into the office on certain days and they will, um, get do what they have to do. It doesn't have to be, I have to be at my office 5 days a week. There is a hybrid model where there's certain times that people can go in and get their work done. Of course, we know socialization is also an important factor for people. So the workplace may give people that social outlet, but really, do employers want their employees to be socializing in the workplace? There are so it I think a hybrid model. We're going to be seeing a lot more hybrid models coming to the forefront in day-to-day businesses. Everything except for, of course, the food service industry cannot be that way. But even they have changed. I mean, DoorDash, food, I mean, this is just amazing. You can have food brought to your door just through an app. I can do my grocery shopping just through an app. I mean, uh, the pandemic there's definitely tragic points. I mean, the pandemic is tragic, right? But it forced us, not only, it was a hard reset. It was a hard reset
Mhm.
for a lot of industries, for individuals, for communities. So, yeah.
Calling it a hard reset is good. I think even the way when we look at office work, because I know we went through different phases, excuse me, where people would say, we need to have these people operate in sort of a newsroom style. So everybody can just be around each other. But if you're trying to do focused work, having people, the ability to have people just interrupt you is annoying and takes you off track. So I think when we think of hybrid, we need to think of like, what are you trying to do? So if I want to engage with you because you might have some ideas, we can share, then that might not be something we do all the time. If we're working together, or even having like a social Zoom or social hybrid model thing, that might be beneficial for us to develop relationships and share ideas and those kind of things. So for a social with a benefit kind of perspective. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I am super excited to see what this is going to look like a year from now, and down the road. Um, I believe, even with this great resignation, that people, and this is definitely anecdotal. This is not that I have any true stats to support this, but people may be willing to even take a lesser pay just to be able to work remotely. Right now, you don't have the cost factor of transportation. And I wonder if the transportation industry would even support that. They may start getting their lobbyists out there to stop people from working remotely from home. But I think I'm looking forward to see what this looks like all
Yeah.
worldwide.
I think some people will be surprised by what's happening, because there's an assumption that most of the people who are quitting their jobs are younger people, when the
Mhm,
data from the Harvard Business Review says it's people from 30 to 45. So that is older millennials and younger Gen X. These are
mhm,
mid career established folks who are leaving their current employer. So maybe there's some pent up demand for them leaving, but they're like, okay, we're quitting. Some of them are finding new jobs, and some of them are starting new companies, and then some of them are doing things. So it's interesting that we have that. And it's not necessarily, there are people who are quitting and going to early retirement, but it's not necessarily that that's the top thing that happens. So if we think about this group of people from 30 to 45, that those mid-career people who would be naturally the next group of people, it has the potential also of changing the landscape of work in general. So we'll have to see what happens. It will be very interesting. It will definitely be interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree. So yeah, I think this is something that's pretty important and key, and we're all going to sit back and watch because it affects all of us, right? Like you said, it's really not just the younger employee. It's the person. It's the, what do you call it? The mid. What was the
Mid-career.
word? The mid-career person. And like I said, so when you're sitting home during COVID, people were really thinking, do I really enjoy this? Do I love my job? I mean, again, we had to think, people began thinking, can I see myself doing this for the rest of my life? Like the world is about to come to an end. Is this how I want to spend the next, you know, 40 years of my life? Because every day that I have, I can't get back. But but this trend, technically, I mean, if you really think about it, has been on the rise pre-pandemic. When you think about those big companies that allow workers that freedom, that flexibility to do, not to how they do their work, get the work done. They're not going to sort of have that industrial model where everybody has to arrive at the same time, punch the clock, the time clock, but giving people the freedom to get your work done in a way. And even now, when you think about just schools, and a lot of students are going for online education, it's that flexibility. I'm going to get the work done. Allow me to get it done in a way that makes me, that I'm comfortable with, not that I have someone standing in front of me dictating how, when, and where I do my work.
That's a really good point. I have a friend who's a professor. So she was saying she was teaching a non-synchronous class. So it is really, you
Yeah.
give them the opportunity to do it. And I was like, non-synchronous? Like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah, those are up on the rise too. For me, I don't know, I was raised up in the industrial era, so non-synchronous means I will be lost in the pasture. Right? But there are a lot of people where that works. It's great. So I just do my work when it fits in my lifestyle, that I can work full time, take care of my family, or do the things that I enjoy, and I can dictate when I get my work done, just get it in by this deadline. Come on. I mean, as the
Yeah.
more I talk about it, I think I need to start doing more non-synchronous work.
Yeah, and as you said, it made me think of people. So people who didn't finish their degrees and going back, they have families, or just younger people have families, or people who are going to get that next professional degree. If they
Yeah.
still have to go to work, still take care of everything else outside of work,
Hmm.
that would give them some ability. Because if you had a non-synchronous class and you knew at work, even if you could do stuff at lunchtime, then
Yeah.
that would give you better opportunity.
And even when you look at some of these more advanced degrees, right? PhDs, or even an MBA program where it wasn't non-synchronous, but you had a weekend, where you can go to that school if you didn't live locally, but it gave you that freedom where you can block out very definitive time, and it's not every day, all day, that you have to commit to getting those advanced degrees. So I think we were heading this way anyway. I just think COVID just sort of gave it, just put it on steroids,
Yes.
because people no longer want to be in that structured kind of model of getting work done.
Very true. Very true. Very
Mhm.
true. So we'll see what happens next in the Great Resignation as we continue through this year, and as more people are required to go back to work. We'll see if they stay or if they resign or create something new, or create an environment that employers find that they have to change to adjust to what
Mhm.
employees want.
Absolutely. If you're going to be a cutting edge employer, you're going to have to rethink things and not stay on the beaten path because it's worn out. It's so worn out.
Very true. That's a good way of looking at it.
Oh,
That's great. So this has been a great conversation. So
always joy.
yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us, for listening. Make sure you share with a friend, and leave us some comments below. Until next time. Join us next time as we continue to focus on living our best life on purpose.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Road to Soul Joy Wellness. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We love your feedback and a chance to answer your questions, and we may even share your ideas on the show. Until the next time, enjoy your time on the road to Soul Joy Wellness.